Eddie, good morning. We've had the fortnight between matches, but the last few days feels like there might have been quite a bit going on. I want to start with Kieran Trippier because of the interest in him from Bayern Munich. Right now, what is the situation with Kieran Trippier?
I think there are a few things to say on Kieran's situation. We obviously hope he'll stay, and I'm very confident he will and be part of our long-term future. But I have to make it clear that he's never asked to leave or even questioned his future here. He's always been fully committed, and we've had a lot of conversations in the last week, and it's always been about Newcastle. And I think it's very important that I made that clear and got that out there to everybody, that his commitment to Newcastle shouldn't be questioned.
Has it been a difficult week for him?
I don't think it's been a difficult week. I think it's a huge compliment that a club like Bayern are interested in him. It's no surprise to me because he's an outstanding player, and I think for us and for me sat here now, I want to keep our best players. I want to keep every player in the squad that is very thin on the ground at the moment. So contemplating losing a player at this stage would be very difficult for me personally, but especially our best players, and Kieran's certainly one of those.
And you said there you hope that he stays. Do you feel this situation is now finished, or is there a feeling that maybe something else could happen in the final few days of the window?
No, his situation's finished as far as everyone's concerned, Kieran, myself. But I've just been in football long enough to never ever say 100% because I don't want to look stupid. But Kieran's 100% committed, and we definitely want to keep him.
There's also a lot of speculation about Miguel Almiron with interest in Saudi Arabia. So what is the situation with him regarding his future?
Yeah, very similar really. I mean, there's been a lot of noise and a lot of speculation about his future. But certainly as his manager, I'm desperate to keep him. He's been an integral part since I've come to the club, and in a sense of his contribution's been immense, whether that's goal scoring last season, work rate and discipline and commitment and professionalism all throughout his time. But yeah, there has been a lot of noise, and that noise comes from somewhere. But hopefully we can keep him when the window shuts quickly.
How much of a factor is it at this stage of the transfer window with less than a week to go that if you were to lose somebody important to sell them, that you wouldn't have a lot of time to replace them, even if you've been doing work in the background to prepare for this kind of eventuality?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's been a difficult window so far, as you can imagine, for us, because it's been the first time since I've been manager of the club that we've been linked with players leaving, and that creates an unsettling dynamic. Now, I think a lot of those rumours have been that they're just rumours. There's been speculation. There's been no truth behind it. Not all of it. But as I say, I'm trying to prepare a team to win our next game, and we want to keep the squad intact, and we want to keep our best players. So that's my determination. But obviously aware of the club side, and financial fair play is affecting all football clubs. You look at this window; it's been very, very strange, very different to last year, and that's a consequence of that. And we're no different to any other club.
Last one on this before I ask you about Fulham. Will it still be your intention, even if nobody leaves, if you can, to try to bring somebody in over the next few days?
Yeah, there's no guarantee on that. We're, of course, working with the club again and seeing what we can do the other way. But yeah, no guarantees, but we're still doing our work and preparing as if we can.
FA Cup again this weekend. Massive result for you in the last round, winning a derby and getting the cup run going. How important will this competition continue to be for you this season if you can stay in it?
Yes, it's a big moment in our season, as the Sunderland game was, and the lads really responded to that challenge. This is an important competition for us now. It takes on a new dynamic because of what's gone before. We are desperate to get our best form back. I think there's signs of that against Sunderland and Manchester City. So we take this game very seriously.
And to what extent do you feel having 2 weeks without a game has helped you and your players with the rest that I suppose that you've had going into an important cup time?
Yeah, we hope so. I think we've had some really good training. I've enjoyed seeing the players perform this last couple of weeks. I think it's been really healthy for us. Players seem in good spirits despite a lot of off-the-field stuff, and yeah, we're very focused on the match.
Very finally, Fulham away, so it's an all Premier League match. I guess you'd rather than beat them at home, but you beat them only a few weeks ago. What do you make of the challenge that you're facing now?
Yeah, tough game. I think you look at the game against Liverpool that they had a couple of days ago, and that was a really good game, high-quality game. And I thought Fulham were close, created a number of chances, and I thought we were pretty good in the game. And Marco's done a brilliant job. I think they continue to improve and grow, which is always very difficult in the league that we're in. So we know it'll be a tough game.
Keith, morning, Eddie.
Morning.
The one player as you didn't mention here was Callum Wilson. A lot said about him over the last 24 hours and a potential exit for him. Is there anything you can say with regards to his future?
That's been a strange one, really, because I think there's been a lot of speculation again regarding Callum, and I've seen some of it, probably not all of it, but a lot of it I think has been unfounded. You know, from our side, Callum is a huge part of what we're doing. We're desperate to get our two strikers fit at the same time, which we haven't had for a long time now, and that's hurt us in lots of different ways. But he's nearing fitness, nearing a return. He's looked good. He's not trained with us yet, but he's getting there. And there's no part of me that wants to lose Callum.
Yeah, he put a cryptic post up on his social media last night. I know you're not on social media, but he said, "Don't compare your life to others. No comparison between the sun and moon. They shine when it's their time." So we were wondering whether that meant that something was happening with him, or whether it meant he was just on his way back to fitness.
God, he's gone deep there, hasn't he? With one read there, I can't even know where he's going with that. But Callum's, in every conversation that I've had with Callum, very similar to Kieran. He's 100% committed to Newcastle. No part of him is looking elsewhere. He wants to come back and score goals. He's got big ambitions for the second half of the season, and we want to keep him here. But obviously, some things are out of my control, and of course the club is acting within the long-term interest of the club, and it has to, and I understand that, and I'm fully supportive of it. So let's see what happens.
You're obviously very light in the midfield area now with the injury to Joe Linton up until May, I think it is. Does that mean, with the restrictions that you've got, and you've spoken about it a lot, so too is Darren Hill, does that mean that to potentially strengthen that position you might have to lose someone somewhere else?
I don't 100% know as we sit here now, Keith, because things are changing on a daily basis, really. We are working behind the scenes on lining up targets and potentially players that we could bring in, but with no guarantee that will happen. So yeah, we've got a little bit of time left before the window, but of course it's my aim to try and leave the window with the strongest squad possible, and that won't change.
That'll be good news to the fans who, I guess, are hoping, fans always hoping that their team can add. Last night, the owners, Amanda Staveley and Merda Gudusi, both sort of posted that they were up the coast in Alnwick, where, of course, you remember, I think this time last year, just before the Anthony Gordon arrival. One, were you there? And two, what do you know about the meeting?
No, I wasn't there. I knew the meeting was happening. I must have missed the invitation. But no, I think the board are always very understanding of my job and how demanding my job is, and let me focus on the training and everything that I need to do. So I understand it was, of course, a meeting, and probably lots discussed on that impacts the long-term future of the club.
Just last one from me, I asked you about Joe Linton a moment ago. Huge blow to miss him for so long. He's one of the key cogs in what you're doing here. How do you go about getting by with him out in the next few months?
Yeah, massive blow for us. We knew when he did the injury. I remember coming back after the Sunderland game and having a scan with the doctor, with Joey, and sort of discussing the very early signs of what it looked like, and immediately thought that this isn't good. But we didn't know at that stage he was going to have an operation and be out for as long. It's a massive blow for us, because I think you've seen he's had a bit of a stop-start season. But then when he's fit and he's firing, there's no one like him, and he brings a different dynamic to our midfield. So he's a leader as well. Yeah, he's going to be a big miss, but we just have to make do.
Andrew? Eddie, good morning. I want to ask you first about that long injury list of yours. You've had the break, so how many players are close to contention back now?
Still a long injury list. Jacob Murphy's trained and he's looked good, so I'm pleased with his progress. That's a big positive. Apart from that, no one else is there. They're all still working back to full fitness, but they are getting closer. The likes of Harvey, Callum, Joe Willock, they're showing good signs.
So not in contention for Saturday, but
No.
Tuesday possibly for the game?
Just wait and see.
City, that game, gut-wrenching last-minute goal. It's happened so many times this season where you conceded so late on. Is there a reason, do you think, that keeps happening this season?
Yeah, been asked that question many times. I think it's very difficult to comment on and go through every goal and go, this is why it happened. I think when you look at the Manchester City goal, I think there's a lot of things to take away from that. One, we were unable to make the changes that we possibly would have liked to make to attacking players. At that stage, you're given so much to the game, but we're probably running on empty. Manchester City's quality, Kevin De Bruyne's quality makes a difference, and as much as we'll always analyse ourselves and see where we could have done better, they took the game away from us at the end. But of course we have to judge ourselves and we have to push ourselves for more, and we were disappointed to concede so late. That would have been a valuable point for us.
Javier Manquillo, a loyal servant, 6.5 seasons here. You must be sad to see him go, but of course it does give you some wriggle room in the transfer market.
Yeah, I'm not sure it gives us much room in the transfer market, but yeah, very sad to see him go because he's been, as you say, a very loyal servant to the club. He's seen a lot in his time here. He's been very supportive of the players as he's been injured this year, and he's been very professional around the group. Very talented player. We're sad to see him go, and we certainly wish him well for the future.
The FA Cup, I mean, stating the bleeding obvious in a way, but just how important is it to this club this season?
Yeah, well, it's huge for us. We're well aware of that. I think with the Champions League and the Carabao Cup, those situations, and very quickly our minds then focused to the FA Cup, which it had to. And the Sunderland game was a big moment for us. What we don't want to do is waste all that work getting through that round, and that was difficult. Now we enter this game, and we want to continue that run going. So we're determined to do well. We know it's a difficult game, but I believe in the team.
And finally, I mean, you've had 2 weeks off. Can we expect a more energised Newcastle United on the pitch in these 90 minutes coming up tomorrow, given what we've seen, in recent games where the players have been on their knees?
Yeah, well, I think you saw an energised performance against Manchester City, but you probably saw an energised performance for 60 minutes of the game, and we just couldn't carry that through. And again, I'm not making excuses, but I think it was the inability to maybe make attacking changes that we needed to, because if you look at the distance that some of those players covered and how hard we had to work to contain them, they were really high levels, and it was just probably that inability that cost us. But I hope, I can never guarantee it, but I hope, and from what I've seen in training, I think we will see a very energetic performance, and hopefully a really good technical one, because we've done a lot of work in that area.
Thanks, Andrew. Chris Conway.
Hi Eddie.
Hi.
Just in terms of transfers, you said obviously the club are trying. How close do you think you are to making a signing at the moment?
No, we're not very close. We're preparing, and that's all we can do. We're preparing and seeing what's out there and identifying players and targets, but we're not active in the market currently.
Would you have been preparing anywhere regardless, or are you preparing because of what's gone on, the noise this week around Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson and Miguel Almiron?
No, I think we're prepared regardless, until someone says either the window's shut or we're not 100%, we're not going to do anything, then that's different. But until that moment, we'll continue to work.
And just, with reference to the kind of noise that has been around in the past week, can you sum up exactly where you think the club are in terms of transfers? Is there a determination to do business?
It's not a necessity as we sit here now, no. But I think the club, quite rightly, are assessing all options. I have the team to think of, and I have the next game to think of, and the run of games to think of, while also we're all guardians of the football club's future, and we all have to act in the right way regarding that future. So there's a lot to consider.
I assume as part of wanting the best for the club, does that include you knocking on the boardroom door and saying, can I have a signing?
I don't think it's quite like that. I think it's discussions and communication's key, and I communicate regularly with the owners and with everyone that makes the decisions at the football club, and we come together to make the right decision for Newcastle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
I think many years ago, one of your predecessors, Kevin Keegan, stood on the steps at St James's and explained why the club had sold Andy Cole for the greater good. Do you foresee a time when you may have to make a similarly difficult, I'm not asking you to go on the
I was
steps.
going to say.
You have to make a similarly difficult decision.
Yeah, I don't think it will be necessarily my decision. Again, it will be a group decision. It will be, we'll all come together and assess the situation and then try and make the right call for the club. But the most important thing is always the club's, as I say, longer term future, and we have to comply with the rules. And the rules have been set, so that's what we're trying to do.
And given what's gone on with Kieran this week, do you feel vulnerable to that kind of approach, or is it a case that something like that could only happen on your terms?
Yeah, I think it only happens on our terms. As a football club, we have to make the decision of what's right for us. As I say, everyone has maybe slightly different views. As the manager, I have a slightly different view, of course, to maybe some other people at the club, but we come together and we all make a decision, as I said, in the best interest of the club. With Kieran's situation, as I said, it was a strange one because the player's 100% committed to Newcastle. We 100% wanted to keep him, so it was quite an unusual situation.
Jordan, Dominic and Craig.
Just another player that's been linked earlier this week, Jamal Lascelles reporting to be suggesting that he might be going to Besiktas. Is that true? Is that what can you say about his future?
I can tell you absolutely nothing. That's one that I've got no idea where that's come from. Jamal's a big part of what we're doing.
And is there any update in terms of his contract at the end of the season? Obviously expires. Do you hope he stays?
Yeah, I'd need to have some clarity on Jamal's contract situation, but yeah, as I said, he's a big part of our future, so I'm not sure if he is out of contract at the end of the season.
And you sort of touched on it earlier, but just how unsettling has the thought of transfer exits been for the squad this week when preparing for a big FA Cup game?
Yeah, I don't think it's been ideal. There's no denying that. It's been an unsettling week. More for the players than for me, because I'm focusing on what I focus on. I'm not reading the speculation and delving into that world, but I'm sure the players will, because it's their futures, and the talk, and then the players inside the change room no doubt will talk, but we have to put that aside. For training, of course, we have to put that aside, and then for the game we have to put that aside, and we have to focus on now delivering a really good performance for ourselves and for the club.
Just on that subject, as a manager, how do you gauge that a player may be unsettled by rumours and speculation, and how do you manage that? Communication.
Sit down and talk with them, and that's always been my way. I'd never shy away from those conversations. It's, come on, let's talk. Let's, as I said, I feel that's the best way to deal with any problem or any player that's unsettled. Let's communicate. Let's see things from your side. This is what I'm thinking as your manager, and I hope the players that have had those conversations with me have left feeling wanted, left feeling more clear about the situation.
You've been working with Joe White since he returned from his loan. Is he a player you expect to stay around beyond January, or will that be dependent on players potentially coming in?
Yeah, no, Joe will stay with us for the rest of the season. Where we're light on bodies in midfield, I think it's a really good opportunity for him to come in and show that he's at the level, and he's certainly improved. The loan spell has been a really beneficial thing for him, so this could be a great opportunity.
Just finally, on the injury front, player we haven't mentioned in a while, Matt Target, just how far is he with his function?
He's working his way back to fitness. He's on the grass, he's running, he's not training with us yet, he's not sprinting, so he's probably 60-70% running speed, so he's still got a bit to go.
Craig, Luke and Chris.
Morning, Eddie. You said that the situation wasn't ideal. To that end, would the club have let it be known that they had to trade and every player had its price? Ideally, would that message have been conveyed at the end of the season rather than halfway through?
That's a difficult one for me to answer. I don't know. I think when our accounts were published, Darren's just tried to paint a realistic picture of where we stand right now, and I think that honesty, I think hopefully the supporters and everyone connected with Newcastle will appreciate, because sometimes clubs can be accused of not being honest and not being transparent and not being clear. and I think that's what Darren's message was really. But again, we're not on our own here. We're the same as every other Premier League club. Financial fair play, you can see in the windows, had a dramatic effect on everyone's decision making, and we're no different. So I think every player has a price at every club. So we're no different, as I said, to anyone else.
You mentioned Joe Linton's injury there. Away from that, you've got his contract situation. What's your understanding? What's the latest there?
My understanding, yes, he has 18 months, near enough, left on his contract. Again, as his manager, I'm determined for him to stay. I love him as a person and as a player, so that would be my wish. They did sign a long-term contract. Of course, there's more to it than that. There's Joe's wishes and what he wants. And before he signs a contract, he has to be entirely happy with everything. And we're not at that stage yet.
Luke, how prepared do fans need to be that there might not be any signings coming in?
Yeah, I think that is a big possibility. There might be no one coming through the door. I can't give any false promises or any other position than the truth at the moment. We're not close to signing anybody. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to do the work and prepare as if we are. And there's still time left in the window to do so.
There was a suggestion, I think, needs to be put to bed that Callum Wilson's been offered around to clubs and that there have been bids made for him or inquiries made for him. What is the situation with that?
Well, that is news to me. That from my side and what I know, the information that I have, which sometimes in this situation might not be everything, but I believe it is. Absolutely no truth in that whatsoever. He's a big part of what we're doing. I think when you look at, again, I think just common sense tells you have two strikers. One's injured and so I've got one fit striker. Why would the club be offering that striker, the other striker? Why would he make him available with no ability to then replace him? It doesn't make sense.
And just on Joel Linton, there's been a suggestion he might have played his last game for the club, that he might have to be sold in the summer. What's your stance on that?
I'm not a fortune teller, I've got no idea. I certainly hope that's not the case. But of course, replying to Craig's question, there is a possibility that could be the case, but I don't know. I think 18 months is a sort of a vulnerable time left on your contract length. The club would need to either tie Joe down and sign a longer term contract, or there's an opportunity or a possibility that he'll be maybe sold in the summer. That's just the reality of the situation.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris? Morning, Eddie. You mentioned that you want to keep the first team squad together that you've got at the moment, which is not many players, but if the opportunity arose whereby you would have to trade out to potentially get a long-term signing you'd want to bring in, is that something you would consider?
Yeah, sounds quite simple. When you're sort of inside that, it's never that easy. Yes, of course, we'd look at every situation and every transfer on its merit, and if we felt it made the squad stronger, that'd be something we'd be open to. But in my experience with this window, those types of deals aren't out there. With the ability to bring in players on long-term deals, I think Anthony's transfer last season wasn't a normal January transfer, and I think that's because of Everton's financial issues at the time. It was the only reason that we were able to sign him, but I don't think there's many of those out there.
I mean, going into this window, obviously, as of a couple of months ago, did you foresee that it would be like this, not just for you, but for all clubs? Did you foresee it being a very difficult month to trade, or was it surprised you how difficult it's actually been?
Yeah, I think it surprised me. I didn't quite see it being like this, but I think the points deductions for Everton was probably a turning point for the clubs. I'm just guessing here, but I imagine that's had quite a dramatic effect with everyone's mentality now towards this window.
Okay, Lee Ryder, thank you.
Eddie, on Trippier, I mean, obviously he's 33. From a financial point of view, I guess people would say that's not a bad deal to potentially get your money back on a player signed 2 years ago. As a sort of head coach, do you feel like you're sort of making sense to the financial department on football decisions to keep it?
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, I wasn't a lone voice here, in a sense that, again, you'll see numbers in the media, you'll see a number, and you'll think, oh, that's potentially good value for Kieran. But when you're sort of in our shoes and you see the actual breakdown of that, it's not good value at all. And I think it would have been a poor decision to accept it. And now, again, that's not just my opinion, that's everyone connected with the club. So I wasn't a lone wolf in there. Kieran is loved by everybody and he's respected greatly, and what he brings on the team you can't measure. So, as I said, repeat myself, but Kieran wanted to stay and we wanted to keep him.
When you said before, some things are out of your control, it doesn't sound like it bodes well for like deadline day. If a massive bid came in, would you almost have the rug pulled from beneath you?
Yeah, I think that's I don't particularly like that term, because I think when you're in my shoes, you have to understand the bigger picture. You have to look at the future of the club, and we have to comply with the rules. So it's no good me saying I wouldn't do this and I wouldn't do that, and the club then are going to go, but we have to. So we have to work together. And for me, that's where the best football clubs, that's how the best football clubs work. But you're making decisions with the whole picture in mind, with all the knowledge. So I'm not kept in the dark. I'm kept very aware of what's going on. But it's a big balance now for us to keep the best squad that we can going forward.
And finally, does a scenario exist where you keep all your players, which is obviously what you want to do, but still bring somebody in? Are we talking the loan market here, or can you buy a player if you keep everybody?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how to answer that, because we'll just see how things go. But we are looking at players. We are trying, if we can, to improve the squad and leave January with a better squad than when we started. That's always my intention. So let's see.
Okay. Kieran, then Simon.
I think it's rare Bayern don't get players they want when they're going for them. Do you think it's sent an important message to keep hold of someone like Kieran?
Well, I think it's sending an important message from the club's perspective, that yes, with Darren's message that he put out in the media, that we're not just going to sell anybody at any price. You know, the club, would have valuations on players, and those valuations have to be met, or the club won't sell. And that's where I think everyone's been very strong, and I think that has to be the case.
In terms of income, are you almost wary of doing something this month that would have a knock-on effect on the summer when maybe it's a bit better to do business?
That's why I'm saying there's a lot to consider. It's not just a simple thing to say, well, we'll just bring a player in, because then how does that affect the summer? And that's where financial fair play has changed how clubs do business dramatically, both ins and outs. The market, I don't think, will be the same again. Financial fair play will be relevant in every club's decision making now.
Simon?
Heidi, just about the meeting last night, did you want to be at it if they were discussing important things about the club? Should you have been at it?
No, if they needed me in the subjects that they were going to discuss, I would have been there. But of course, there's some things that I'm not involved in terms of decision making at the club, and also those meetings can last a long time. So I was quite relieved not to be there.
They look nice food anyway. And it sounds like there's discussions you've had about transfers. There's not been like universal agreement. There's going to be opinions differing about what the club should do from a financial side or a playing side. How do you come to those compromises? Has it been a difficult process, or having different opinions in those rooms?
No, I'd say we've all been aligned, everyone. I don't think there's been a situation where we haven't agreed on the plan forward, which is a good thing to this point. I'm sure there will be, of course, disagreements and different decisions at certain stages, but I think everything that we've done so far has been very clear.
Do you think if you didn't sign anybody, you've got enough players to move forward? Because obviously with Gillington being out, you are pretty thin on the ground in terms of midfielders. One of them's Lewis, who's only 17. Do you think you've got enough to move forward if you don't add anybody?
I think we've got enough if we get the players back that are close to returning. But I always say with players that are coming back from injury, there's no guarantee that they will return to fitness. I think you're most vulnerable to get injured again when you've just returned. So, but if we get those players back, I think we're in a really good place. But so it's all dependent on that, really.
Calvin Phillips was a player who was linked with you a lot. Did it ever get close, or did you just kind of step away from that one because he's obviously going to West Ham?
Yeah, we had to step away from that one due to financial reasons.
Was that somebody that you kind of ideally would have liked to have got involved with, but it was PSR.
Yeah, I would never go into too much detail, but yeah, as I say, it was financially related.
And just finally, in terms of the PSR wiggle room that you've got, would there be any scope at all to bring in somebody permanently? I know Lee mentioned there about loans and things. Is it that close at the moment, or is it something where you could do it, be creative, and then maybe look at something again in the summer?
We're always trying to be creative, but it's all very well you being creative as, say, the buying club. The selling club have got, or want, and to reciprocate that and be creative the other way, and that's where the problems arise.
Dom and then Martin.
Eddie, you mentioned it's been a difficult window since the first time players have been linked away. Is that the harsh reality of what windows are going to be like from here on in, given the financial situation?
Yeah, I don't know what future windows will look like. It's very difficult to predict, but I do think this is not just us. I think this is every club, and every club will face slightly different problems, but the same ultimate problem is that you have to comply with financial fair play rules, which means there'll be more selling of players that maybe you don't expect.
Suggestions beside Alfie Harrison from Manchester City, can you say anything about that?
Yeah, no, we welcome him to the football club. I wasn't directly involved in that transfer, but certainly welcome him to the football club. He's a highly talented young player, and we hope he does really well with us.
And is that, just touching on that, is that kind of, you talked about being creative, thinking outside the box, is that one of those? You've done it before, signing young players with hopefully big futures.
Well, I think that's where the club has to be. We have to sign talented young players, whether that's signing a 12-year-old locally for our academy, whether that's signing players from other Premier League clubs before they've matured into the players that they're going to be. It's an avenue for us to try and improve our development of players.
Thank you. Okay, just Martin and then Oscar to finish. Hi Eddie, sorry to go back. How big a blow would it have been to have lost Kieran?
Yeah, hypothetical, but yeah, it would have been a big blow for us because he's so important. He's such a big leader of the group. I think he inspires the other players. I think the other players gain confidence when he's with us. So yeah, he's a player that really affects the team. Creates goals. Is a big attacking player for us. So yeah, we would have missed him if he wasn't here, but thankfully he is, and he's hopefully going to be a big part of our future.
And is it understandable that Kieran's head might have been turned by a club with the size of Bayern and what they entail?
Well, again, I want to make it clear, Kieran's head wasn't turned. You know, Kieran has only ever spoken so positively about his time here, about his experience here, about Newcastle as a club, about his relationship with the supporters. And I can say he was absolutely focused on the future, and his family are very happy here. So I think it's worked out well for him in the end.
Also, how difficult have you found this one?
No, I don't want to say it hasn't been a brilliant thing that I'd like to go through again, but it's not been bad. It's just part of the job. You're trying to deal with different things. You're trying to juggle a lot that's going on. Although we've had a 2-week break, it hasn't felt like that for me. Trust me, it's been intense, but that's managing Newcastle is always intense.
Cheers, you had over 5 press conferences in a week. Oscar. Eddie, what's the worst case scenario for you heading into the last week of the window? Is it losing a key player and not signing anybody? I mean, is that something you've told the owners cannot happen?
No, I've not used those words. It cannot happen because ultimately the club have to do what they feel is right given the circumstances that they're faced with. Yeah, I suppose from my perspective, losing a player would be the ultimate negative for me, and not replacing, of course. But I've been in this situation a lot of time in my career. My focus has always been get the best out of what you have, don't worry about what you don't have. And that for me has really helped me. And I'm not talking about this situation, I'm just saying that's always been my philosophy in coaching. So whether that's injured players, whether that's losing players in my early career at Bournemouth due to financial issues and selling players, it's right, this is the group I have, how can I get the best out of it? And that won't change.
Out to the Champions League and Carabao Cup. 10th in the league's been some talk from people that maybe the season's almost a write-off now, but that's obviously, I assume, something you wouldn't even entertain.
Yeah, there's different ways you can look at things. Of course, that's one way, and that's a very negative view. We've had some unbelievable experiences this year that hopefully we'll benefit for in the future. I mean, we're 10th in the league, but very little gap between us and the teams above us. Yes, we're still in the FA Cup and we're determined to try and go well in that competition. So I think we have to be very positive about the situation. we've got a group of players that I see every day that are very committed and very keen to do well in the second half of the season, so hopefully that can show.